Welcome to this session hosted by Impact Hub Stockholm. And today we will talk with Linda Grönlund about how to succeed with building and launching a digital product. And my name is Anna, and I'm a community host at Impact Hub Stockholm. And for those of you who don't know so much about Impact Hub or Impact Hub Stockholm, we are a co-working space and an international community, mostly for social entrepreneurs and change makers, but there's also other people that are related to our network or use our spaces. And we have, we've got this location in Stockholm, but then we also have Impact Hubs in about, I think it's more than 150 locations worldwide. So there is quite likely a Impact Hub close to where you are if you're not based in Stockholm. So over to Linda then. So Linda, she is an entrepreneurial change maker that today will give you her learnings about launching Fair Photo Agency, a B2B platform for photographers and sustainable brands. And when it comes to this kind of journey, I would say that her experience is quite unique since she got both the experience from being a client, but also from the supplier side, as she now works for the software house that actually saved her entrepreneurial project. So before I'll let Linda take over, I just want to give you some house rules. So we will have some time for a Q&A in the end. So if you have any questions, it would be nice if you just write them in the chat and I will direct them to Linda in the end. And also, if you got any longer questions, one of the really important things with the session is also that you will now get the introduction from Linda and hear a bit about her experience, but you will also then be able to book sessions with her in order to discuss any digital products, choosing software houses, etc. So after the presentation, we will share Linda's details, so you can get that in place if that's necessary. So, Linda, if you want to take over.
Thank you so much. I will also share my details here on a couple of slides, so I'm sure you want to see if that's the case, that you want to book a session like that. And I guess when you presented Impact Hub, it just came to my mind, by the way, that I heard that Impact Hub is opening a new space here in Berlin now in November. Is that something that you also heard, or is it at the Circular House? Apparently, they're going to open a new space.
Did not know, but
Cool. Maybe you should join
the largest one in Europe. So yes, you're on that information.
Well, I could be wrong also. It could just be a rumor, who knows? But that's definitely something that we should look into and maybe collaborate a little bit. I don't know. We'll see.
Nice.
But anyway, so
maybe we can send you there as a
scout.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, cool.
It's so nice to do something like this with you guys. You're my idols. I totally adore the work that you're doing and the mission that you're onto. And yeah, I'm very happy to have a session like this together with you. So I'm Linda Grönlund, originally from Sweden, as you might understand from my surname. Now live in Berlin, have a family here since around 4 years. And I'm based out of a co-working space and a bigger community in a tech hub called Factory Berlin. That is one of the bigger ones actually in Europe. So we have 4,500 members. It's pretty cool. A lot of things happening here, a lot of super cool startups. And I'm also spending my days over at another space called Co-Creation Loft, which is at the side of town. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's 350 square meters of a loft with the high ceilings and all that. And we are 20 people, something that is running it together. And it's something that was initiated by some Swedish folks back in the days, actually. So Thomas Björkman, etc. So that's where you can find me in Berlin on those two spaces. And it's a great combination also to have that. Yeah, can highly recommend coming to Berlin, by the way, when things are back to normal again. And I've also been an entrepreneur since around 2010. Been launching various business ideas because I'm one of those people that, you know, a little bit crazy mind maybe. If I get an idea of something, I see a business opportunity in it, and I see that it could actually be happening, it's realistic, then it doesn't matter the industry, I cannot help myself. I have to try it. Good and bad, it's also a curse because it also means that you're wasting a lot of money and time on projects that maybe will not be surviving for more than 2 years or so. But it's just, you know, some people are just like that. And I think it's a good thing, to be honest. But now I am working as a business associate for Merixstudio. So my job is to build up a presence for Merix here, also building a bridge to Nordics in Sweden. And Merix is a pretty cool, bigger software house with around 200 plus people working there. And we are also hiring a handful of people every month, actually. So it's growing and it's super exciting company. We have engineers, back-end, front-end, quality assurers. We have UX, UI designers in-house, and all of them are sitting in Poznan, Poland. We also have DevOps, software architects, business developers, business analysts, and other startup nerds, including myself. So it's not one of those companies that are just producing a heck of a code in a cellar somewhere, and that's it. But we have more of a holistic view on startups, helping them also finalizing business opportunities and business models, etc. So I think you have to have that holistic view also to be able to build digital products or MVPs for startups, that you understand the whole business and their goals and missions and so on. Yeah, so I am, let's see if I can get to the next slide. I am gonna be pretty personal and basic and give some hands-on tips that I hope that you, for those of you that are thinking about building something and launching online, that you feel that this is something that you can really use. And I am talking from a client's point of view because I actually made this presentation when I was still a client, so a couple of years ago, and then I, of course, fine-tune it along the way now. And yeah, so we will go over a case study from my own startup that I had for the agency. We will go over some hands-on points that you can use. We will have some Q&As, and as also mentioned in the beginning here, you will get the opportunity to book an individual call with either myself or any of my techie colleagues over at the headquarters that I can direct you to. And we can go over your particular project and what you can think about. Things like, how do I pin down my thoughts into a draft, and how do I create specification? How do I choose a software house? Could this be a good match for my particular needs, etc.? So depends on where you are at and what your next steps are. And you do this simply by just sending me an email, and we will take it from there. But yeah, first, the case study. Back in 2016, I was running a studio for visual communications as a product photographer working for sustainable brands. But after a while, developed the feeling that, I was alone. It was just me and my dog in the studio. It felt a bit empty. I'm a very social person. I wanted people around me. I want to create something bigger. I want to create something scalable that had more impact, working together with more photographers and more sustainable brand. And the feeling of being able to do something more for more people, that was something that really grew within me. And after a while, then I got this idea of, let's just create a two-sided digital platform where these people, so photographers and sustainable brands, can meet, get matched, and work together and conduct projects together, and don't ever have to leave the platform. So I wrote a pretty heavy business plan with my goals and the the functions that I could see a digital product like this be using, and I pitched it to my VC back in my hometown. I'm from Holland, so I pitched it to them and others also, but they were the ones that were hooked on it, and they really liked it, and decided to invest in it. So I got my funding from there, and I also got a couple of £100,000 from grants, and I also took a little bit of an ALMI loan, which then gave me the money that I needed to finally take the step and build this MVP, because it is a pretty costly and time-consuming thing to do. So with that in hand, I can then take the step to actually execute this thing. Execute is a pretty harsh word, but I also like it because it means that you're actually taking a step and doing something. So what I needed now at this stage was to find the best possible software house for my particular needs. And I started looking within Sweden first only. I didn't even think about going outside of Sweden. And I think that was because I was a little bit scared. You know, this was a pretty big thing. A lot of money involved, a VC involved. I was alone. That was probably something that I would have changed if I could go back now, to have a team with me, even though the VC also worked a bit of a team. It's still not the same thing. But yeah, so I had all of this, but I still felt scared in a way. So going only to Swedish software houses that could build this thing was kind of a comforting thing for me, because then, you know the culture and the language and all these things. So I wrote down a pretty rigorous step-by-step specification when I completely outlined the functionalities that I needed, what this platform is going to do. I wrote user stories. I showcased the whole flow, how it's going to look. I drafted down just in a simple drawing, actually. I did some story mapping, and I created some user stories to really describe, as a photographer or as a brand, what am I able to do what will I be able to do on this platform? And then I presented that together with my business plan and my visions and everything to a few dev houses, so they would just simply understand my idea. And then I ended up with a super nice, really friendly, sweet, smaller house outside of Stockholm. I think there were like 12 people or something working there. We really connected and had a good chemistry. The people working there were around my age, and I saw them as, this could be my friends. And then I got interested in them, and they were like on the top of my list. And then I saw that they had been doing something similar to what I had in mind before. And not only that, it was also for creative people. So it was for photographers, designers, illustrators, all this. So I was like, okay, if they have been doing that before, that's it for me. I don't need much more information than that. Let's go and let's start building already. Yeah. So they started working on the MVP. For the first 1 or 2 months or so, everything was amazing, and we had a really good communication, and everything was flowing. I didn't see so much. I just saw a front-end draft of what it could look like, which I thought it was okay. I liked it, but it wasn't so much more happening. And since I don't know code, I also couldn't ask them, can I have a look at the code from the backend? So after a couple of months, there were some problems starting to appear, unfortunately. The first thing I noticed that got me a little bit worried was that it started to be a lot of bugs arising. So functionalities that were deployed, and I go in to have a look at them and being all excited and all, and then I see that it's not really working at all. So I report that to the software house then, and they are like, oh yeah, sure, no, we will fix it. And we fix it. And I go in again and have a look again, and I see that, oh yeah, it's fixed, but this also led to another bug now arising. And then this continued. And after a while, I started to be a little bit frustrated, I must say. And I think that the dev house in question also felt a little bit the same way, like, oh no, now this project is only having problems all the time now. Now they are calling, or now they are emailing again. And from their point of view, I thought it was a little bit like that. So they felt that, we can answer tomorrow, stuff like that. So that led to very long lead times before I got any answers to anything. And also building up a bit of a frustration from that, I must say. And yeah, so it was going to take between 3 to 4 months, but after 3.5 months was the deadline and that turned into almost 8 months. I felt that, okay, I have to do something. This is obviously not going to work. So we have to just realize that we have to do something drastic here. So, and then I came to the finals of the business plan competition called Venture Cup, that is in Sweden, also in other Nordic countries, I think. And I was gonna get the opportunity to pitch on stage with a lot of people, and I thought there's so many opportunities here. I have to have this thing live by then, And so that is what made me finally take the step out of this contract. And there was a high risk, yes. Switching developers in the midst of a MVP building is not to recommend, but if you end up like I did, then you have no choice, then you kind of have to do it. So I started looking abroad this time, because now I thought, all right, I am in this situation. I cannot sleep at night. I'm super stressed, and my VC is asking every day what's going on. I don't care if it's in Sweden or somewhere else. I have to have right people working on this thing now. So I guess I don't really remember, but I think I Googled something like most trustworthy developers in the world or something, and I came across a review site for software houses called clutch.co. And in there, I found a really good rated software house in Poland. And I thought, Poland's not that far away. Let's just have a call with them. And some other people also that I have a call with, some other software houses, so I can compare a few. And it was a high-risk choice. I have never been hiring foreign developers before. I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. But I got a really good impression, and first and foremost, I felt secure, and I felt these are people that I can trust. So I started working with this software house called Merixstudio, where I work now, which is pretty funny. So they taught me how you can work differently, and there was really a lot of differences of how two software houses can work differently. Now, there's not one right way or another, but for this particular project, I was more beneficial of the second software house for sure. So it was pretty crazy how this journey ended, because I think it was 2 days or something before the finals of Venture Cup that they put this platform live. So, and that was after 3.5 weeks and without bugs, and everything was flowing and working. So that was an amazing journey for me. And I think the reason for that is because they put a whole dedicated team of 6 or 7 people onto this project. They made a project rescue out of it. They reviewed the code and say like, yeah, this is something that we can do. And then they just started building it, on 6, 7 people working on a full-time basis, just focused launching my product. That was an amazing feeling as an entrepreneur, I must say. So I learned a lot from this journey, to say the least. And that is a few points that I would like to share with you, maybe points that people normally don't really talk about so much when it comes to choosing a software house. Apart, of course, from the obvious things like, oh, do they know the right code? Do they have the right skills? What are their references saying about them? Do they have the right price point for me? Are they within my budget and all that? That's obvious things, but we're going to talk about other things. And by the way, the Polish people were also half the price of my Swedish dev house. So that was not why I chose them, but that was a pretty neat bonus. Sorry, I have to drink water like all the time because I just had a terrible cough. It's over now, but you can still hear my voice is a bit funky, so I hope that's okay. But yeah, the first thing that I would ask at a house is, are you using a designated quality assurer? Is it somebody at your house that is actually checking the code that's been built and see if everything is working, or is it full of bugs, you know? And with my first developers, that they didn't really have that. And I think that was what creating this first frustration that I experienced, where me and my ex-boyfriend at the time in Sweden, and we were the quality assurers. I realized now we were the ones sitting at home at the evenings and weekends and just trying to sign up as a photographer and trying to sign up as a client, and then do the projects together and see these whole steps that you have to go through, getting to the project room and all these things, trying to download and pay and rate the photographer. And we were the ones doing that, and that's not really cool, actually. Another thing that I would ask them, the ones that you're thinking about hiring, you can ask, what tools are you using for communication and project management? How do you conduct projects like this? We used Slack for communication and Jira as an agile project management tool, and I think that was perfect for my particular project, at least. For other projects, maybe you need different tools, but I think this was amazing. And not only using Excel files, so I would stay away from that. Also ask them if they are willing to include you in their tool. In my case, I was included in the Jira tool, so I could see exactly what was going on, what was in the backlog, what are they gonna work on today, and what are they gonna work on tomorrow. And I think that is something that you can definitely be part of. Because I had a feeling that I was not just a client, you know, I was engaged in the team. We were building this together. And that is also nice, because then you will get a feeling for, oh, they have misunderstood something. They shouldn't be working in this now. And then you can raise it already before they start working on it. And you can that way then be a bit proactive and not get into situations where you have developers working in code that is not going to be used anyway, and everybody is unhappy. So, yeah, this is maybe one of my bigger issues. Be aware of the constant. Yes, we can fix that. Not a problem. If you hear that, I will be a little bit cautious, because they're also called yes men. And I think that was a little bit the case. And at the beginning, when I hadn't been working with software houses before, and I asked for something, is this something that you can build? What do you think about this functionality? And they say, yeah, of course, we can fix that, not a problem. I was in the beginning thinking like, wow, that's amazing. They can do so much, you know. But then I realized that is not always the case, you know. So be a little bit aware if you are talking to their house, if it is the case that they are over-promising, or for other reasons they keep saying this, because it's just not the reality that one dev house can do all the things that you might be asking for if you're asking for a lot of different things. Yes, make your homework and know what it is that you want in detail. And more importantly, then be flexible and willing to change just that. that is super important because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You can build something and then there is some pandemic happening, you know, and then you have to adjust towards that. Because I'm at startups here at Factory and other places where, you know, they have a clear roadmap. Everybody in the team is following the roadmap, and then, no, we cannot change that, you know, because we are so aligned in this now. Not good. I think it's better to be more flexible and work more agile. When you do then a 1 week sprint, you see that, okay, now this happened. We get new information this week. Maybe we should change a few things. Prepare as much materials as you possibly can for the first meeting with the dev house that you're thinking about hiring. That is super nice, because not only are you sorting down your own thoughts and your own ideas and your own ideas for functions that you want, but you're also portraying yourself as a more confident entrepreneur, and you're giving a better impression to the dev house. Yeah, so it's very important that they actually understand what it is that you want and that you keep it easy. I would also be quite clear and rather overdo the communication than underdo it, if that's even a word, underdo, but you know what I mean. Because the people that will be building that, they're not coming from your industry. Maybe they are, but maybe not. They don't have the same background as you. There is absolutely no reason to use fancy words and, you know, being all prestigeful and all that. I think it's better to be super clear and explain in an easy way what it is that you. I know that's very hard, and it's the case also when you're looking for VCs. They have to understand your startups and your goal and your business idea and what it is that you want. Otherwise, they're not going to invest in you. So I think it's exactly the same thing here. This is something that I think you could definitely ask. Are you guys using different hourly rates for the different people that you have under your roof? A senior software developer should definitely be a little bit more expensive than a junior. And these are things that if they show you numbers, yeah, we have this hourly rate for the senior developer and this for the junior, and this is for the quality assurance, etc., etc. Then they are showing you that they are transparent. They're transparent about the prices, and they are probably transparent about a lot of other things also. So if you ask that and they say, no, you know, that's, you know, inside information, we don't want to talk about that, then I would be a little bit like, okay, what else are you hiding if you don't want to be transparent about this? So that can be a little bit of a thing that you can investigate on. I would also invest a lot in my due diligence. This is something that maybe I didn't do enough with my first software house because I just didn't have the experience, you know. But you could definitely create your own list of what you're looking for, what's important for you. Find a few candidates, set up a call with them and compare them. And go over the reference lists, obviously. Maybe you can see that, yeah, they have launched a similar product that I want to build, which is great. And that was also the case for me for the first software house that I hired. But if you see that they have been doing that, and also with functionalities that could be a little bit more advanced than the functionalities that you have in mind for your product, then that I'd say is a really good sign. So then that is showing that they know what they're doing and they might have the skills that you need. So that is something that you could check for sure. Can you find any negative words about them online? That is also a bit of a no-brainer. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, I can find something, but what am I supposed to do with it? You know, it's the thing is that you can find, and I did also find a few negative words from all the clients from our first software house, but could have been a misunderstanding from the client. Doesn't mean that the software houses are bad or are not working the right way, etc. But it can just also be a simple misunderstanding from the client. So I would be a bit cautious if I see that. I would think, okay, it's a misunderstanding, no harm done, it's all good, you know. Or it can be bad clients out there, people that just want to harm the software house for whatever reason, and that shouldn't be affecting so much for the software house, I think. But the thing is that if you see that, I would also get the indication that, okay, well, maybe it is the case that this particular software house are just not so good at finding the right matching projects for their skills and what they want to do, you know. Taking on projects that is a good match for your software house and also for the client to investigate, could this be a good match? It's like almost like marrying someone. I think that is something that you can look at. If you see that you always have a bit of a tricky clientele behind this software house, then it's indicating that, okay, maybe they are not so good at finding the right matching projects. And then that is a problem per se, not the actual words that you can find. Do they have a decent number of staff that are working on the same roof? I think that's something that really helped me, because as I said, I got pretty rapidly a bunch of staff. So we had a backend, we had front end, we had a designer, we had a quality assurer, and we had a project manager, and they all devoted their time, the full time, to build and launch my product. And if you are a bigger house, then it's so much easier to do these type of setups and be more flexible. And if somebody is sick, then maybe someone from the house can jump in, and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be hurtful for your project. And also, I found it pretty nice to have a project manager from the software house. That is the one person that is kind of like responsible for the whole project flowing and being launched as planned. As opposed to if you would hire someone or hiring a freelancer, a developer, and they would be sitting at your office, and then you would be the project manager. And maybe you have a lot of other things to do, which you obviously always have when you're running a startup. I found it pretty nice to have that one person that is taking care of everything that is coming up. If somebody in the team then would be sick, then the project manager would take care of that. Yes, this is also something that I would investigate a little bit on when I decide on a software house to hire for my MVP or my digital project. If they are offering courses for the staff, that is a really good sign, I think. Because these people, the people that are working as developers, that are engineers in any given field, usually, at least is my understanding, that they are really hungry of finding new cool tech languages that they can learn, or what are the new trends and what's happening now, and how can I develop my skills. That is my experience, at least. Of course, doesn't mean that every developer is like that, but I guess that would be the case. And is it then the case that they see your project that you're coming with as an opportunity to learn, or is it something that they already know how to code? So, because you don't want to be that client that is paying for your developers training. That's a little bit how I felt like, and that's just not cool. Yes, be friends with your developers, absolutely, but maybe wait until the product is close to launched or being launched. Because I think also that was one of the reasons for why it didn't really work with the first software house that I that I hired, because we became really like good friends. I had a really nice emotional feeling towards them, feeling that, we could go out and take beer together. And these are people that I can all invite for my future wedding and stuff like that, And it's super nice to have that feeling, but it can also backfire a little bit because after 2 months or so, I started to get the feeling that I was that friend that could always wait, but while other things and other projects needed to be launched. I will never forget after 6 months or something like that. So it was a deadline of 3.5 months. So after 6 months, I've been asking, so what's going on now? Where are the standings? What can we do next? And then I heard that, oh, we totally love your project here. We're working on it. It's just the thing that we have another couple of projects that we have to launch before we can start working on yours again. And hearing that in that situation, it made my emotions go from being annoyed and frustrated to actually I became a bit angry, And when you reach that stage, emotionally wise, it's not so good. And this is something that I will not undervalue, but trust your gut feeling, super important. It sounds a bit unprofessional. That's also what I mean, that these are points that normally people not really talk about, but it is undervalued. Your gut feeling is telling you super important things that you maybe won't learn elsewhere, and you can't really explain why you feel the way you do, but there is something behind it. So if you find that you're starting to develop a nasty gut feeling, start thinking about what is causing you these feelings, or what can you do about it, and what questions can you ask the software house to see if this gut feeling is valid or not. It doesn't have to be valid either. It could also be based on a misunderstanding, but then you have to investigate on what's behind these emotions and why do you get this bad gut feeling. And it happened for me also with the first dev house, but I totally neglected it. I was like, that's ridiculous. I don't have to feel like this. Now we already started the project, so now we're going to continue doing this instead of, investigating more on it. So that is something that I would definitely investigate more on if I would see that popping up along the way. Yes, so I see that I'm a little bit early in time because it's a lot of slides and a lot of information. So I thought maybe we should have a couple more minutes for the Q&A. But I definitely want to show you this, that you could, as we said also in the beginning, book in some individual calls with either myself, or if you want me to redirect to any of my more tech-savvy colleagues over at the headquarters, I'm also happy to do that. And we can go over your particular digital product or your MVP. And we can go over things like how I'm going to write a good specification. What can I think about when I'm talking to these software houses now? Could Merix be a good match for me? We don't work with just any client, so I have that out on the air. But those of you that want to investigate more on that, I'm also happy to do that, of course. And you do this simply by just sending me an email and we will take it from there. Yes, let's have some interesting discussions, yeah? And let's see, Anna.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, then please drop them in the chat and I will bring them up. I actually had one before. Can I?
Oh yeah, I see that.
I wrote it in the chat. Yes. So when you had to do the first sort of putting together the idea of what you wanted to do for Fair Photo agency, and like build that platform and show it to the VCs and also the software house, like functionality, UI flows of, did you know how to do that? Or did you kind of Google a bit and just like build the flow with story mapping, et cetera, like how?
Yeah. No, I definitely did not have any experience whatsoever of building a product like this. And I didn't know what story mapping was, or like how can you write a good specification. And no, I did not know. So I did a bit of Googling, yes, a bit of research. But to be honest, I was more thinking that, okay, what would I want to see if I were a software house and somebody like me would approach them and ask if you can build this? Then I would want to see like a clear list of functionalities and how the whole flow is going and who are the users and what are they going to be able to do on the platform. And and then I also thought it was important to, why not just give them the whole business plan, so they can get a better understanding. If they read it, that's good, and if not, then maybe they don't need it. But now, with the experience that I have, I feel that, of course, we should always send a business plan. They should always understand what you want to be in, say, 5 years, what your goals are for the business, because that's needed to be able to build a product, that these things.
So basically, when you put together the specification for the dev house or the software house, you should not only be thinking about the product, but also sort of the goal of the business, because that will help them to give you recommendations that you might not even know are appropriate for the building of the product, right?
Exactly right. And it doesn't have to be like in a specific way, because the software house will also ask the right questions to understand the whole thing. And they will ask you, okay, this is a bit unclear. Could you do it like this? And maybe they have some guidelines that you can follow. You just fill in your stuff. I don't know. Could be anything. So there's also, I see this other question here, what software I use. To be honest, I just put everything down in a simple document, like a bullet list of the functionalities. And then I did a sketch with pen and paper. I took a photo of the paper and I showcased that to them as a draft of like what the website could look like, and also adding examples of websites that I really like, that has been inspiring me, that they can also take inspiration from, which was really helpful in terms of the front end, because or the design ended up in a really nice way that I liked.
I think that's really inspiring that you did that, and that you also share it, and it would be nice to maybe hear also Peter's experience, because I can imagine that a lot of people think that in order to actually order a software house to build you a product, you have to know, like, you have to do this in a professional way, and you need to have like professional sketches, and to hear that, that this might be enough to either, draw it.
There's no real right and wrong. Yeah, exactly. There's no real right and wrong. It's not like you have to be a tech savvy person yourself, and you have to build a prototype in Bubble. You can do that in bubble.io, I think it is. It's pretty neat. I haven't used it myself, but you can build prototypes in there without code, which is awesome, because the more information that you can showcase of what's in your head, the better for the software house, because that's your duty as a client to also be able to communicate what it is that you want. You cannot expect them to just deep dive into your head and understand everything. And then it's very normal also that you do have some workshops together. So you as a potential client and the dev house, we also do that in Merix, where we spend maybe 1 or 2 days together and we just go over all of these things. So it can also be the case that you just have everything in your head, but you don't have the time or the energy or the tools or whatever reason to put everything down beforehand, but you want to do it together with the software house. And if you know exactly who you want to hire, because maybe you have been hiring them before and you know that they're trustworthy, that could also be an option. So if I would build a new product now that I want to launch in 3 or 4 months, like an MVP, and I want to use Merix for it, and I obviously know how they are working. Then I think I would also start off with a deep diving workshop where you together with the software house or members from the software house, like 10 people maybe sometimes, work on the specification together. But it's at the end of the day still also nice to have you thinking through what it is that you want, what gets you going, because that's only you yourself can do that.
I guess it's also like a good experience, like a good exercise for yourself to try to be as detailed as possible, because just figure out what it is that you really want. So I've got another question. What might be like the pros and cons with using, because obviously you can also hire other companies that are more picking different developers and different resources from offshore companies instead of having all themselves in-house. Can you, except for probably the obvious price thing,
but that's usually a price point that is no, for sure. I think it depends on the project that you're doing and your own experience. And I think I would feel a little bit scared, even with the experience that I have today, to start working from my end directly with developers in countries that I have no clue about, like India, for example. Then I would be a little bit scared, because that is a totally different story. But you can, of course, also go via middlemen that are based maybe in Sweden or in Germany. And they know how to communicate with the engineers in India, and they know what's working and not, and how you have to work with them culture-wise. That is, of course, an option. But I have no experience. I haven't done that myself. But maybe it could be. Depends on the project. At the end of the day, it has to be the best possible match for your particular project. That's all that matters.
I think another question that you and I spoke about before was whether a software house can charge you for the hours that they might need in order to sort of like understand the project. And you like do the estimations, information for a quote. Is that something that would be reasonable that they are actually getting paid for?
I don't think so. I think as a client that you don't have to expect to pay for that. It depends on what it is. So in my case, when I came with half-made code for the agency to Merixstudio, asking them, is this something that you can launch? Is this something you can help me out with? They said, yes, we have to look at the code first to be able to say yes or no. We cannot answer that questions before we have done a thorough code review first. And that was, I don't remember, like a couple of $100 or something. And that I felt, okay, that I want to pay for, because it makes sense. They will run it through some engineers. And they would do a thorough investigation of the code that I have and let me know if they can work with it or not. And maybe they would have come back to me and say, sorry, this is not within our skill sets. I recommend that either you contact another dev house or we can just take the next steps together. It would work, So it depends. It totally depends.
But I guess also, if they can do it, it would be something that they would have to do as a part of the project anyway, right?
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. So it makes sense that is something that you as a client should expect to pay for and not get for free. But when you have calls together and when you are asking for a quote, that is a lot of hours sometimes. I know that our estimations, that working with estimating at Merix, they can sometimes put hours and hours onto just delivering a nice quote, because it also has to be somewhat correct, And then the client or the lead comes back and says, sorry, no, for whatever reason it's too costly or something else, I got to change of plans. I'm not going to build this after all. Then you have to spend a lot of hours. So that is a dilemma for software houses, that they have to kind of like spend these hours. And that I think is okay.
We've got a few more minutes, and there are two more questions here that I think it would be super nice if we can actually cover as well. So one of them being, what kind, because you talked about finding good matches for the dev house, and that Merix Studios might not actually say yes to everything. So what kind of projects do you work with, and which ones would you not, if there's any sort of like specific requirements?
Well, if it is the case that we need, I guess, an extra pair of hands for this particular project, so we want to hire one developer backend on like a 10% basis for a longer time. That is usually things that we don't really do, because normally what we are focused on is to getting to know the startups like really on a deeper level, and build MVP together, so the whole MVP together. So since we have everything in-house also, we have the front end, the back end, the designers, the quality assurers, and et cetera, et cetera. So when you have this whole team in-house, you can also be a little bit more efficient, instead of having a team distributed all over the world and nobody really knows what everybody is doing. If you're unlucky. That I found something to be really, really cool, to have this dedicated team of 6 to 8 people working on my product on a full-time basis, and only doing that and being focused on doing that.
I guess that kind of ties in a bit to the question from Caitlin as well, where she's asking whether you can see sort of any trends in regards to doing basically what you just gave as an example, like hiring an external developer for some kind of task, or that it's more common that people try to have their in-house dev team, especially when it comes to if you're a company and your business is actually like a digital product. What's most common? Like, do you have your in-house team, or do you often hire an external software house?
I think it totally depends also, again. So if you have if you are fortunate enough to find co-founders that are tech savvy and that have the skills to code themselves, and we actually have a project right now where we have a team within the AI field actually that are super tech savvy, and really, like, when I talk to them, I hardly understand what they're saying. It's that type of a level. But they still need to hire us, because they need to build a product pretty fast, and they also want to work on other things. So it totally depends on what your plans are for the nearest future and what you have on your hands. And some people also want to have the goal of being able to build up an in-house tech team. And that is the normal that I've seen, that you start as either semi-tech savvy or super tech savvy, or not tech savvy at all, core team. You start a startup, and then you hire a software house to produce something. And then as you grow and you have more revenue and you have validated your product, and you want to also add on other functionalities and do more things, then you're starting to hire your own software developers in-house when you want to build up a company. So when you're like, I don't know, whatever, 10, 20 people, then you want to have your own engineers. But before that, you want to hire a software house.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, we got one more minute before it's 7 o'clock. So any last takeaways? I would suggest that, obviously, I think from my perspective, I think this was super useful, and just the opportunity to actually be able to contact you. We will send out a follow-up email with the details from Linda, so that everyone can actually get in touch with her if they have any questions. So
and don't be hesitating if you think of anything, if you have an idea, so you want to discuss something. I mean, absolutely feel free to reach out. I love getting emails. I'm a little bit like, a teenager getting real snail mails. It's like almost at that level. Oh, a new email. It's ridiculous because it's coming so much, and it's still a bit of a buzzy feeling within my body happening every time I see an email. It's ridiculous, I know, but feel free to reach out.
That, especially since you have been through this whole thing, like you can feel the excitement of a potential client, which is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Super nice and lovely again to be here and doing something like this together with you guys, because I absolutely adore your work, as I said, and more of that.
We will definitely find time to do more of that. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a wonderful day.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.